Florida State. This is probably the most talked about team in the offseason, like legitimately. If I was to pick a team that was most talked about. Offensively, they were fantastic last year. And I'm going to be honest, I misread this team going into last year. I famously bet the under 6.5 wins last year. Famously. Famously. And I got absolutely burned. And look, I'm a believer in this team. They're loaded. They're loaded everywhere. I mean, I have key returners, everyone, right? That they didn't lose. They hardly lost anyone. Right, sure they lost Robinson, but their strength of schedule is pretty tough though in terms of well, really just
win total wise. I think
yeah,
LSU is a
win total
tough.
wise, trying to get to 10, trying to get over 10 is tough when you have LSU as your out of conference, right? That already makes what that is. But their defense gets better. Their offense is going to get better. They had Keon Coleman. I mean, what are your thoughts? Over under 10 wins. How do you feel about that?
I think that's a great line. Now, I don't want to spoil it, but Florida State is probably my favorite to win the ACC, and I know a lot of others too. But I do think the LSU game, I think they're going to go 7-1, 8-0 in the ACC, but I guess maybe 6-2 worst case scenario. But I do think the LSU game definitely scares me away from taking that line because I think you're looking at a realistic possibility where they're 10-2 more times than they are 11-1. So I do like the 10 win spot. Like you said, everybody comes back. Johnny Wilson is gonna fix his drop issues, hopefully. Their
Maybe.
O line is great. Keon Coleman, obviously dynamic playmaker for him that helps Johnny Wilson, do what he does best, right over the top, and Keon Coleman can work the middle of the field. Trey Benson's a guy that we talked about. I think he's on your fantasy team for football or for a running back draft.
I mean,
He's
PFF
elite.
loves him.
Oh,
The
elite
NFL
ball carrier.
scouts.
Oh,
Yeah. So, I mean,
and now Trayshawn Ward is the backup running back who played a good bit last year. They're obviously going to miss him. He's at K State now,
I was going to
but I
say,
don't
yep,
think.
he's out of there.
But Rodney Hill is an explosive back that was a true freshman last year. Kind of underrated guy nationally in terms of 24/7 rankings, but they like him a lot, and they kind of chose him over Trayshawn Ward in terms of where to distribute the NIL money to keep guys on the team. Yeah, I think even their tight ends too. I mean, Jaheim Bell is a stud from South Carolina. They get transferred over,
Yeah.
elite athlete playing there, and they have some other tight ends like as well. Yes, O line they lose, Dylan Gibbons, who was an All ACC guy, whatever, but they got 3 more transfers, experienced group. Even if they were average last year's Power Five group, which was a huge, honestly surprise because Florida State's been awful offensive line wise, but if they can become, you know, above average or even become a strength of this team, look out in the ACC. I think they have a very high floor on the offensive line, which is kind of all you can ask for at this point. In college football offensive line wise, but yeah, I think the offense is going to be awesome. And then yeah, I won't even talk about Jared Verse, who's might be the best defensive player in college football. And they return also pretty much everybody on the defensive front. 16 defensive line on scholarship. More than half of them, 8 of them have already played and will rotate in. The thing is like, if you want to talk about a national strength, or on a national landscape, like in terms of high end talent, I don't quite put Florida State in that same tier with Bama, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. Right? They are not in that. But their two deeps are so good and so deep that they can withstand injuries. Maybe not Jordan Travis, but just about everywhere
Right.
else, they can um they can withstand injuries and still have an elite production from a lot of their guys. So yes, I think in terms of national championship expectations, I don't think I have them this year for them, but ACC championship, absolutely. There's no reason that they shouldn't be, in that championship game this year.
Right. I agree with you. Now here's my thing. I lean towards I lean over. I do. And that's obviously you can't take the over because of LSU. Because that is on the schedule, you just can't. You can't count on them to, let's say you're counting them to lose to LSU. You can't count on them to beat Clemson, right? And then not trip up the rest of the way. But I'm a huge fan of this team. I'm a huge, and just to show you like what in terms of like the rest of their schedule looks like and how well they compare. So 10 wins, over is at plus 110, right? So you're getting plus odds there. If you alt line it to 9, it's minus 330. So that's how good this team is compared to the rest of the ACC. And you talked about their offensive line. Of their 10 offensive linemen in their 2 deep, 9 of them have at least 4 years of experience or more in the program.
Yeah.
Well, I will transfer just anywhere. Like that, you love experience on the offensive line, and it's so deep. I'm not worried about them at all there. We talked about Trey Jet Benson being dog. Either Trayshawn Ward transfers. Who cares? I don't. And he'll be a phenomenal player for Kansas State. But who cares? Their defense, though, is what I want to talk about. Like, you lose Jamie Robinson. Okay, sure. Goes to NFL, whatever. Shane Brown is also really good over the top. I think they really like him there. A lot of beat writers are high on him. They landed transfer Ashlyn Barker, who's a very, very large JUCO guy. I watched like some of his highlights, JUCO highlights. Some of the guys he was playing were not good football players from my perspective. I mean, just not. And he clearly did not belong there. He flies downhill. So I expect him to kind of crack this lineup here. In some way, right? I think he's really good. They were 4th in sack percentage in the country last year per dropback. I mean, what? That 10% of dropbacks at Florida State defensively turn into a sack. That is ridiculous. I think that's insane. I don't think that really changes a whole lot this year because they add a lot. They get better. Gilbert Edmond at edge is better. Daryl Jackson, I think is a really good player. Check out this size on the defensive front. D tackle 6'6", 300 from Daryl Jackson. Braden Fisk is an underrated player. Western Michigan, 6'5", 305. I mean, come on. Lovett was hurt last year. I mean, Fabian Lovett. I think this defensive line is going to be crazy. That's not including Jared Verse, who you already mentioned. That's crazy. Fentrell Cypress was an absolute gem in the transfer portal from Virginia.
Oh my goodness.
He's unbelievable. He is so good. I'm just not worried about anywhere on this defense. There are no holes anywhere, right? I think Renardo Green's pretty good at cornerback. There are just no holes anywhere that I could find. Because of that, I can't lean under. I can't. I think 11-1 is more likely than 9-3 is where I'm going with that. That's why I lean over. Can't be taking that, though, because LSU is on that schedule and at Clemson, of course. So huge fan of this team. I think Mike Norvell's done a fantastic job. He's proved the haters wrong. I was not a hater, but he proved me wrong in a lot of ways last year. He made me look kind of silly. So, but I'm all in on him. So linebackers are good too. I mean, what else do we have to say about this team? What else? What else do we have to say?
I think if they do beat LSU in week 1, there will be a ton of national hype for Florida State in terms of playoff contenders, and that 10 over 10 wins will be a lock if they beat LSU. I don't think they're losing 2 games in the ACC after beating LSU, but yeah, I to me, I don't think it's worth the pick or worth a play with that schedule. But yeah, this is a team that's absolutely like,
it's weird because like you just know you could potentially know week 1 if this is going to go over. Like you said,
yeah. And really even if they lose the game, they can still hit the over. Like it wouldn't be surprised. I think it's interesting how different things look 12 months ago. Like 12 months, right? 12 months ago, a year ago, Florida State was like, okay, is Mike Norvell a guy? Are they gonna, even?
It was hot seat. It was legit. Well, it wasn't hot seat, but it was like legit talks about can he be the guy? I don't know. Like,
yeah. And Jordan Travis was like a very average, even below average Power 5 quarterback. This year, not is he a guy that's going to be an all-pro first round pick in the NFL? No. Is he a really, really, really good college quarterback that you can win a lot of games with?
Bingo.
Yes, absolutely. And that's all you need right now. Florida State, they'll get to the high-powered recruiting, later on with Norvell if they continue the success. But he has done a tremendous job. building this team up, hitting on transfers, keeping guys in, recruiting their guys, changing the culture. I mean, it was a poop show at Florida State for a while. And Norvell, this year, it's awesome. I'm really excited to see what goes on there.